Have you ever tried to stop doing something and then that's literally the only thing that you can think about is the thing that you're trying to stop doing? There's a couple examples of things that I can think of, like people trying to cut out sugar. Maybe you're trying to stop scrolling on your phone, or you're trying to stop picking yourself apart, stop talking so badly about yourself, or stop complaining about your mom, stop complaining about your friends, whatever the thing is. I like the sugar example one because it's so relatable for most people. Maybe you're trying to cut out processed sugar and then all you can think about is having sugar. You want anything and everything with sugar, like a yummy coffee drink that's full of a bunch of sugar, donuts, just chocolate, candy, the only thing that you can think about is the freaking sugar. A lot of women that I work with notice this, where, maybe they're trying to cut something out for whatever reason, trying to stop something, and then it's like all they can do is hyperfixate and obsess on that thing that they said that they wanted to stop doing so much. They notice that the second they try to stop doing something so often or cut something out, that they're obsessive about that thing. So today I just want to talk to you about kind of why this happens and a much more supportive and effective and sustainable way of trying to change. A lot of women I work with describe this as feeling almost obsessive when they're trying to stop doing something and then all they can do is think about that thing. Internally, it typically feels like they're just hyper fixated on it. They feel deprived of it, whatever the thing is. They're constantly thinking about it, especially if it's food. It's like they're constantly thinking about food, the specific food they said they didn't want to eat. The next time they get to eat food, they feel kind of deprived, and all of their mental energy is going into thinking about this thing that they said they wanted to stop doing or stop having. They describe it as feeling very defeating, gosh, I can't seem to get a handle on this. I said I wanted to stop doing this or stop eating this, and I just can't keep myself from doing it or eating it. And then they find themselves trying to start over every Monday again and again because they just can't kind of get out of this obsessive mindset around whatever thing they said they wanted to stop doing. It starts to feel like whatever you're trying to change or stop doing is taking up more mental space than it ever did before. And so of course when this happens, we automatically think something is wrong with us. We kind of think man, I just really need to be more disciplined around this. That would solve it. I need to use willpower more and discipline to keep myself from indulging in the sugar or staying off my phone or not talking so badly or complaining all the time, whatever it is that you're trying to stop doing so much of. And it's every time we reach for the thing or have some sugar or are on our phones or find ourselves complaining, it's of course, again, I failed at that and I can't seem to figure this out. Most people are interpreting this as a personal failure. Gosh dang it, there's something wrong with me if I can't seem to muscle my way through this. I experienced something pretty similar to this myself when I was going through counting macros years ago. It was when I was counting macros, all I could do was obsess about food, think about food. I was thinking about the next time I got to eat the food I couldn't eat. It was all of my mental space was caught up in thinking about food all the time. I was obsessive and fixated on the food. And it felt like when I was doing that, I was more obsessive than I was if I wasn't counting macros. And it just felt like if I went even a little bit off plan, I just failed, so I might as well throw in the towel and just send it for the day. What surprised me about this phase was how much more difficult it felt. Even if I wasn't really changing what I was eating that much, the second I was trying to restrict things or cut things out, it was all I could think about. And it was it took up so much mental bandwidth, and I was just looking forward to the next time I got to eat something. And it also surprised me that how much harder it felt. I felt trapped in it, and I couldn't imagine a lifestyle when I could just kind of eat and trust my body. The restriction and the trying to stop doing something made me feel so much more obsessive about the thing than I was to begin with. This is a really common experience, whether it's around food or exercise or scrolling or talking more kindly to ourselves. The second we try to stop doing something, it's like this switch flips, and that's the only thing that we can think about. I think it sparks an interesting question. And that question is the thing we're trying to stop doing or cut out actually the real issue in the first place? So for example, if you're trying to cut out sugar, more than likely what you're actually trying to do is maybe lose some weight, maybe get a little bit healthier, maybe shift some lab markers that you saw. Maybe if you're trying to stop scrolling so much, you're actually just trying to be more present, waste less time, go to bed earlier. Maybe you're trying to stop criticizing yourself so much and saying so many bad things about yourself. And it's not necessarily the specific thing that you're saying that you're after, but you're actually after more self-confidence and not picking yourself apart so much, and not just constantly being in this negative spiral of eating yourself alive. Or maybe you're trying to stop noticing all the bad things in other people, and it's not really about not saying something bad about somebody else, but rather it's about not picking everybody else apart because you want good relationships, you want to see good things in people, you want to shift your perspective onto something better. So it's interesting that we try to stop doing this thing and then we obsess about that specific thing, even though there's a lot more underneath that we're actually trying to access just by stopping or cutting out this one thing. And oftentimes we're kind of looking for more confidence, more presence, more ease in our mind, more peace in our mind, especially like for women around food, trying to not feel like all of our precious life's energy is consumed by what we're eating or not eating. Maybe you're just trying to have more energy to spend on other things, not just picking your body apart and picking other people apart. Often what we really want isn't just to stop doing that one thing. It's something much deeper that we think that one thing will give us access to. Often what we really want isn't just to stop that thing. It's the feeling that stopping something like that and the person that would stop something like that would give us. I think the switch that's really powerful is, instead of focusing on what we want to stop doing or cut out, actually focus on what we want to do more of. What if instead of focusing on what you want to eliminate, you actually just focus on what we want to do more of, what we can add more of to move you closer to that feeling that you're actually chasing. So rather than focusing on, I need to cut these specific foods out, or I need to cut sugar out. I get your point. I get your goal. You're trying to respect your body, maybe lean out a little bit, have more energy. But when we just fixate on the things we're going to cut out, what happens is our mind starts to obsess about it. And then that's all that we can think about it. It hyperfixates on the one thing we said we couldn't have. So rather, I think one approach you can take is focusing on more nourishing foods. So how do I add more vegetables and protein to each meal? And that doesn't mean I can't have a treat at the end, but more than likely, you're going to start with the vegetables and the protein and maybe the healthy carbohydrate, and you're not going to feel so ravenous for the sugar at the end of the meal. More than likely, your meal is going to satisfy you. You're not going to be as hungry. If you've made sure you've been fed all day, you're not going to be ravenous by the end of the day and just reaching for that quick sugar because you just need food now. I think we can flip it to focus on what positive behaviors can we start leaning into that the woman that we want to become would actually start adding, that move us towards that version of ourselves that we want to be. So I understand that by wanting to cut out sugar, maybe you're trying to, again, lean out, have more confidence, eat healthier, nourish your body more, have more energy, not have these energy crashes. So maybe we focus on adding more protein, adding more vegetables, eating more satiating meals, moving our body, and just building more healthy routines around meals. One other idea is just trying to making a choice more desirable and not punishment. So for example, maybe you want to make some cookies that are full of nourishing quality ingredients so that when you do enjoy one, you don't go into this spiral around the ingredients. So that way, when you do want a sweet after dinner or in the middle of the afternoon, you enjoy one of those rather than waiting until you're ravenous and eating 12 Oreos and then you're spiraling around all of the ingredients that were in there and then you weren't hungry for dinner. So then you just threw in the towel everywhere. And I understand this might feel a little bit unnatural at first because our brains are wired to focus on problems or threats, right? And so I understand why we start practicing this behavior of focusing on all the things we want to stop. We were taught or modeled that from a very young age to look at all the things we want to fix about ourselves, all the things we need to stop doing to be better. And then society is really often pushing all of these things that need to be different about us. And again, our brains are kind of automatically searching for threats or problems. And so it makes sense that we gravitate towards all the things we need to stop doing in order to be the version of ourselves that we want to be. So our brain automatically is looking for, what do I need to stop doing so I can be confident, so I can be lean, so I can be thin, so I can be more likable, so I can be more positive. It makes sense. So it's a behavior that we've practiced for a long time, and it's become a habit. And so part of the shift is in practicing something different until it starts to become a little bit more automatic for us. That kind of helps us also be less judgmental and not expect that just changing the behavior is going to be perfect and seamless and you're going to just start doing it tomorrow and not have any problems along the way. These are some of the questions I try to explore with women when we're trying to create behavior change and start doing different things and acting in different ways. I like to ask, what do we want to do more of? Rather than what do you want to stop doing, what do we want to do more of? What behaviors and what things do we want to do more of in our life? Maybe it's eating more vegetables. Maybe it's drinking more water. Maybe it's drinking more water instead of soda. Maybe it's, I want to start talking nicer to myself. I want to start noticing the good things about myself instead of picking myself apart every single time I look in the mirror. Another really helpful question is, what habits does my future self or the version of myself I'm trying to become lean into? Maybe she's more active. Maybe she does notice good things about herself. Maybe she does celebrate her wins more and starting to kind of indulge and lean into some of those behaviors more. And another really helpful question is, how has focusing on restriction and all the things I wanted to stop doing served me or helped me in the past? Most often women say, well, it hasn't really, it's gotten me here. I feel horrible about myself. And when I try to restrict food, all I can think about is the chocolate that I'm not supposed to have. Or when I try to start cutting out caffeine, all I can think about is coffee all the time. Another question I would ask you is, what decision would you make if you started embodying that version of yourself that you want to be and just trusted yourself? I think you know more than you're giving yourself credit for. What behaviors would you lean into? What would you start doing more of so that you could be that version of yourself right now? And more often than not, women know the answer to that. They know that focusing on all the things they want to stop doing hasn't served them or gotten them where they want to be. So this question is really empowering, and it helps us take some agency back and not feel like we're just messing everything up all the time. Sometimes when we're just focusing on the behaviors we're trying to stop doing, our brain just perceives that as deprivation, and so we hyperfixate on that very thing we're trying to stop doing. We've all heard the quote, what we focus on, we get more of. And it reminds me of like the red car analogy. You know, if you wanted a brand new red 4Runner and you couldn't have it for whatever reason, all you see driving around town are red 4Runners. And so I think it just shows us a very easy example of like, when I'm telling myself I can't have processed sugar, all I can think about is the processed sugar. When I'm telling myself to just stop complaining, it's so easy to find myself complaining about things. Our mind is searching for more evidence to validate this threat. And so what do? We create the evidence for it. Sustainable change usually comes from focusing on what we want to do more of rather than focusing on what we want to stop doing. I hope in this moment you're realizing real sustainable change usually comes from focusing on things we want to do more of, what we want to add to our behaviors or to our life, rather than focusing on what we want to stop doing or what we want to cut out. Because when we focus on what we want to stop doing, our brain perceives that as a threat or a problem. It obsesses about it, it hyperfixates on it, and then that's all you can think about is that one thing you said you were going to stop doing. And so then before you know it, you're indulging in that thing again or just doing that thing over and over and over again because you're just creating evidence for yourself. Again, the really helpful quote here is, what we focus on, we get more of. That's where our energy goes. And so it makes sense that this would apply to behavior change when we're trying to create new behaviors in our life. If you're feeling stuck right now in this cycle of hyper fixating on the things you said you wanted to stop doing. You're feeling really restricted around food or behaviors, and that's all you can think about. I invite you to just try this for a little bit. Try focusing on, okay, what do I want to add? What do I want to do more of? Rather than focusing on all the things you want to cut out or the things that you want to stop doing. In the next video, I'll talk about, okay, when we're focusing on what we want to do more of, it's so easy to get overwhelmed by all the noise, all the things we should be doing, that social media is telling us we should be doing. So in this next video, I'll talk about, okay, now that we're focusing on what we want to do more of, how do we block out the noise and actually move forward and not get overwhelmed? I invite you to kind of follow along, because this will be a really, really helpful series on cultivating real behavior change.